Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sports Lab podcast. We're here for episode number 13, Alex. It's been a long time, buddy. It feels like we've done this for only a couple weeks, but we have 13 episodes officially after today. So, hello and welcome, everybody. We're going to get into things for the week 3 side of things of the NFL regular season. Very up and down week, much like week 2 was, and even week 1, if you will. So there's been a lot of turmoil in the NFL to start this season. Of course, we talked about the Jets-Patriots game last episode. We gave our thoughts and previews on that. So we're going to start it off with that 24-3. The Jets thwack the New England Patriots. I'm thinking that this one's pretty relatively simple. I think we all knew it, but Patriots offense looked very sluggish. Drake May gets in late in the game. What are your thoughts, Alex?
I mean, yeah, we kind of went in depth last episode about this game, but yeah, I mean, the Jets defense is just too much for the Patriots to handle. The Patriots really showed their true colors that they're just not a very good team right now. They just lack a lot of talent, and the Jets are starting to fire on all cylinders. Aaron Rodgers is starting to get back to his normal self, and this Jets team is looking pretty good. I mean, they got a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way, so they could definitely find themselves into a playoff race. I don't really know about the division because the Bills are in that division, so it kind of makes them tougher to. But I think they're going to set themselves up pretty nice to make a nice wild card run.
Yeah, I think that they had a very good week. I mean, it's tough to gauge because I mean it is New England, so like I wasn't expecting a ton of points from them, but they did have a very good outing. Gave up just 3 points. They had a ton of sacks. I think 7 at the end of the game. So there was a ton of different things in that one that really went the Jets' way. And obviously, they've had a little bit of a soft schedule. It's going to continue next week. I believe they have Denver. So
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
do.
like you get the Titans, and then you get the Patriots, and then Denver. And I mean, I guess Denver blew out the Buccaneers. So we'll get to that eventually, but. I mean, maybe Denver pulls it off, and I would love that because, obviously they're in the same division as us, the Jets are.
I'm
So
starting Jets defense, so I wouldn't.
I started the Bucks defense last week, and they got me 3 points. So I lost my mind.
Same,
I
same, same.
lost. I lost because of it.
Rough.
Anyway, we're gonna hop into our second game. It's the Giants and the Browns. This game started off the funniest way ever because this was the first game it showed on NFL Red Zone. I was watching it with a bunch of my friends.
Yeah,
And
same.
I was messing around. And just being like, oh, he's going to fumble. And he literally fumbled the opening kickoff. The Giants return man did. Browns ended up getting, I think, a one-play touchdown from Amari Cooper on that drive because of it. So they really had a great start, and then they just fell off of a cliff. Giants win this one 21-15. I never thought I'd see it in 1 week where the Giants, Panthers, and Broncos all won a game in this regular season, but they all did. And so what are your thoughts on this one? I think Daniel Jones had a very solid game against a decent Cleveland defense.
Yeah, Malik Neighbors is kind of showing hints of OBJ, if I may. I think a lot of Giants fans, that's what they're kind of seeing. I mean, the uber athletic can do it all receiver, can make these highlight reel plays. I mean, you saw that one catch in the end zone was
Oh, yeah.
absolutely insane. LSU receiver, first round guy, all this hype. So I mean, it
It's nice to see it
basically
translate.
it's basically the same storyline. I mean, and even Daniel Jones is these last 2 games has looked pretty good. I mean, Malik Neighbors has been really good. Wan'Dale Robinson has kind of stepped up as that wide receiver too and has played decent. Devin Singletary hasn't been bad. The O-line still, while not great, hasn't been like awful these last 2 weeks. I mean, Andrew Thomas is an absolute stud. He's an all-pro level guy anchoring down that left tackle. I mean, the rest of the line's kind of weak. That right tackle position's still pretty weak, but instead of being like a bottom 3 offensive line, they're more now like bottom 10-ish and like probably like the 20 to 25 range, which
Andrew
is one
Thomas
of
really inflates that.
yeah, which is one of the best offensive lines Daniel Jones has ever had, which is saying something because, yeah, I mean, every O-line in his career has been god awful up until now. So now that he has at least competency there, while not great, at least they're competent with a good receiver to throw to. This is probably the best offense he's had around him, if we're being honest. And I mean, he's playing well. I mean, Minnesota week 1, we thought, oh wow, Daniel Jones just sucks. But I think that's more in Minnesota's defense. I mean, they've been absolutely
Especially
electric.
after this week.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's more of an indictment towards Minnesota's defense than is Daniel Jones because, I mean, the Commanders last week, I mean, granted, they only scored 3 touchdowns against a bad Commanders defense. The other 2 teams against the Commanders have really lit them up. But, I mean, 3 touchdowns. And then against the Browns defense, that's supposed to be really good, scoring 3 touchdowns and winning that game. I mean, it would have been 4 if Devin Singletary didn't sit down at the 1-yard line. Thankfully, he did. It helped me win a bet. But, I mean, Yeah, this Giants offense has looked pretty decent to pair up with what's supposed to be the strong part of their team is their good defense that has been able to generate a lot of pressure over these last 2 weeks, which is nice to see. And then for the Browns, I mean, when I said they were going to go 6-11, I kind of didn't even believe it fully myself. That's just how the records turned out to be. But now I do fully believe it. The Browns are going to be really, really bad this year. I mean, thankfully, pretty sure they have their first round pick back. I think this is the first one they have
I
since the
believe
Watson
they
trade.
do, yes.
So at least if they suck, they're not hampered by that anymore. But I mean, they are still hampered by it because Deshaun Watson's their starting quarterback, and he is god awful.
I don't care. I don't care that you're paying him all that money. You got to go to Jameis and see what you got.
Yeah. At least see what you have. I mean, you're putting all these assets in to try and win now. Why are you rolling out Deshaun Watson, who has just been bad every single week? I mean, the offense.
Like I understand it was a bad decision to sign him and stuff like that, and it's like, oh well. I mean, we're paying him all this money, but now he's just going to be on the bench. But I mean, honestly, you're paying all these other players money, and they're going out there doing their part, and you guys are going to lose a ton of games. I really do believe that if Winston starts, you guys have a very good chance to probably get at least 8 wins with him. I mean, I think he can get you 2 more than Watson. I don't think that's outlandish to say.
I mean, look at Joe Flacco last year. The thing was,
all he had to do was be decent.
He was willing to push the ball down the field, and that's what Winston's known for. He will push the ball down the field. Deshaun Watson's just so conservative that like the offense can't do anything, and the defense can only do so much when it's constantly on the field. It's going to get tired and worn out. I mean, there's not much. I mean, that's what you saw in the Cowboys game. That's what we just saw against the Giants. They're just on the field for so much because their offense can't do anything. That I mean, after that one play touchdown. Their offense scored one more touchdown the rest of the game. Like it was basically their offense just 3 and outs, turnovers, whatever. Because Deshaun Watson just isn't accurate, isn't aggressive. It literally doesn't have a single redeeming quality other than he can run all right. Like every other aspect of his game is just
Winston's
bad.
Not at least that bad in the ground game that it's that big of a difference.
Yeah, exactly. And Winston, at least will he probably throw a couple interceptions where you're like, what are you doing, Jameis? But he'll also have some really good games. He'll push the ball down the field and he'll give your offense.
He's what everyone says Josh Allen
has a chance. Yeah, exactly. He'll do enough where your defense can win you those games. Unlike Deshaun Watson, who's doing so little, your defense can't do it. And I really agree going to Winston.
Them in bad spots by turning the ball over, but he's putting them in bad spots because he's just instantly 3 and outs. Like the defense is going to get tired. If a team drives down the field and scores a touchdown, but it took 12, 13 plays to do, and then you go out 3 plays in a row and then punt it right back, that defense is going to be absolutely exhausted. And that's going to make for a very hard thing. And that's why Myles Garrett got injured. It's because having to come out onto the field that often, you're risking the injuries to your star players like the Myles Garretts, like the Denzel Wards, the JOKs. And that's a big issue for this Cleveland Browns team right now is they just can't get any consistency on offense. And that's exactly why they lost this game. Like you mentioned, if it wasn't for the fumble on the opening kickoff, we're probably talking about a 21-7 game, maybe 8, I guess, because they went for 2. But, like, do they actually go for 2 if it's 21-0? Like, I don't know. And it's a tough game. It really is. They played terrible. And one thing to take away from this game is the Giants' defensive line absolutely ate the offensive line apart because of how many injuries they have. That's what it is. And I said it coming into the season that it was going to be a lot on the Cleveland Browns offensive line and Watson. Those are like my 2 keys for their season. And 3 of their starting offensive linemen are out right now. Jedrick Wills, I almost said Tyler Conklin, but Jack Conklin, and then the right guard Wyatt Teller just went down last week. So that's 3 of your starting 5 offensive linemen. And then their center's not even all that great. Their center's probably the weakest link of the entire offensive line. So 4 of 5 positions are very bad now. The only guy you got left is Bitonio. And, like, who really knows at this point because of how bad it's been. And going up against a front like the Giants front with Thibodeau, with Lawrence, with Burns now, it was just it was a death trap.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah, it was a bad game, but I mean, it's one game for the Cleveland Browns. Maybe they can get it back. We'll have to wait and see. They are 1-2 now. The Giants pick up a win as well, so that's their first win of the year. We're going to move on to the Eagles-Saints. A lot of people had it being a higher scoring game. I know I did. 27-24 was my score prediction for this one. and the Eagles get it done 15-12. Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley carry them over the finish line. Very bad game on both sides of the offensive side of the ball anyway. For both teams, this was just not the game for them. Rashid Shaheed could not find any open space. He was mostly matched up with Quinyon Mitchell. He had that one catch near the end zone that you thought he might hang on to, and it was knocked away by Mitchell. But very good game. 15-12 was the final score. Alex, what are your thoughts on this one?
Nick Sirianni needs to be fired immediately. He is just an awful coach. At one point, the Eagles had 300 yards of offense. The Saints had 100, and the Saints were winning 3-0. Like the offense was able to move. I mean, Hurts had some turnovers and stuff like that.
They went for
killed some
4
drives,
downs way too many times.
The fourth and 1 with 25 seconds left, and you run a fake tush push instead of just kicking the field goal. Because okay, even if you do get that, now you still have to go another 20-25 yards and 25 seconds just to score a touchdown. So you're probably kicking a field goal anyways. So it doesn't make any sense to go for it there. You should just kick the field goal and tie the game up at half. Like that was just one of many instances where it's like, what are you doing, Nick? Like he's carried. He is carried based on that Super Bowl appearance and the talent on this team. And he wasn't even the reason why the coaching was so good then. It was Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. They lose, and they really show that Sirianni is just a bad coach overall. Yeah. And then, I mean, Jalen Hurts has not been good this year. Really, that offense is just being carried by Saquon Barkley finally having a good offensive line behind. I mean, you saw him in New York put up good numbers, and that was behind one of the worst offensive lines. Now he's behind Philly, who has a top 3 offensive line in the league. He is absolutely eating. It's a great thing to see for someone who has him on fantasy like myself. And it's very impressive. I mean, I figured that he was going to have a big year, but not this big. Like everyone was kind of down, like, oh, Jalen Hurts is going to steal touchdowns and yards. I'm like Saquon behind that O-line is going to eat, but he even has exceeded my expectations. Like he has been on another level. And then defensively, Quinyon Mitchell has been an absolute baller so far. What a pickup by them in the draft.
He came as advertised.
He's basically come in and he's been the number 2 corner there because Darius Slay's been the number 1, and he's honestly, since the last year and this year, he's kind of slowed down, and
he's kind of hitting age, man. He's
hitting past his prime. So he's still the number 1 guy. And so Quinyon's been against the number 2, and he's been locking down the number 2. As you saw, Shaheed's had 0 catches, but now Quinyon's probably going to next year, I bet, move into that number 1, and I bet you he'll be able to excel because he is a beast. And then another guy I want to highlight is Jalen Carter. He didn't have a sack. I don't even know if he had a tackle for loss, but he was all over the field. I was watching a video on TikTok where they were going over like Jalen Carter film, and they said he had like 19 impactful plays, which is like where you basically blow up a pass rush, or you like blow up a run play. Even if you don't get the tackle, like you have an impact on how that play. So 19 plays where 19 out of 51 plays where he was like the main, like one of the biggest impacts on why it was like a bad play. Like he would just blow up the guard, and then the running back would have
literally over a third. That's insane.
Yeah, exactly. I think he might have had like 1 or 2 TFLs himself. He didn't have any sacks, but he had a couple of pressures, and he was just in Derek Carr's face up the middle all day long. And everyone knows that's Derek Carr's weaknesses. When the pressure gets to him, he's pretty bad. And he really was able to put, I mean, on that pick, that Carr threw to end the game, a lot of that was because Jalen Carter was getting double teamed. They brought the center over. So then I think it was the other D tackle, the other defensive end had the one-on-one and was able to beat his guy because Jalen Carter had been so dominant in this game. It was Brandon Graham was able to get pressure on Carr because Jalen Carter was taking off that double team because he had been so dominant all game long. And then on the Eagles or the Saints side of the ball, Derek Carr just kind of fell down to earth. Besides throwing to Chris Olave, he had a pretty bad game. Kamara was not very efficient. The O-line just couldn't really open anything up, and you saw that this offense, if it can't get that run game going, it kind of scares me because it looked so good the first 2 weeks because they were able to get the run game going. But now it's like, all right, now teams know if you stop the run, the Saints are kind of a run trick pony. They're running and play action. They can't really do much off it. And their O-line.
Thank you. I've said this for 3 weeks, and I told you, I think I said it in either this podcast or my other one. I literally said the key to this game was going to be if the Eagles stopped the run. And I told you that I thought they would be able to do it, and that's why.
Me too. I picked the Eagles to win also. No, and
literally what it was. My friend Owen picked the Saints for this game.
Yeah, everyone else I knew picked the Saints except for me and you. We were like the only two that picked the Eagles.
I
And
can't see why though.
yeah,
Kamara was never running against that D line,
exactly. And the Saints O line
especially
have,
after they lost Eric
and
McCoy.
I still don't think the Saints offensive line is all that talented. It's the scheme. They have a really good
It is.
scheme, which makes them good against lesser competition, aka the Panthers and the Cowboys' terrible run defenses. Now they went up against the Eagles, who have a really good D line, and it showed they just don't have the talent. So I mean,
Exactly. And then it's going to be a fall from grace for the Saints for a couple weeks now because they got the Falcons next.
yeah, and then they play in the same division as the Bucks, who always have a really good D line. So yeah, I mean, so against bad run defenses, I think the Saints are going to be able to dominate. But I'm a little worried for them. I think this year in the draft they still need to focus on offensive
Yeah,
line.
the
There's a
Saints are
couple.
cooked. They got the Falcons and Chiefs in back-to-back weeks,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
the Bucks in week 6.
That's rough. So yeah, I mean, Eagles looked better. They got back on track after that win against the Falcons. And then the Saints kind of showed their true colors. I mean, I think part of their 2-0 start was kind of just those like the first couple NFL weeks are kind of just like crazy and everyone's trying to figure everything out. And
This
some
one
teams
was
start off hot and
equally.
then fall off. And I think the Saints are going to be one of those teams that just started off hot and fall off. I don't think they're now going to be as 14 and 13 or 4-13 bad like I projected them, but I think they're probably like a 6,
I had
7,
them
8 win
winning
team now.
5. I had them winning 5 games, but I
I
think
think
they
they're now
win
like a
6
6,
now.
7, 8 win team, somewhere
Yeah,
in that range.
they probably get 7 probably at the end of the year,
Yeah,
which I mean,
exactly.
it just depends on how big this fall off really is because it can still change very, very drastically.
Yeah.
Sorry, but we're gonna move into the next game, and this one was honestly, in my opinion, this is the. I don't care the Panthers beat the Raiders. This is the biggest shock of the week to me, and that is the Minnesota Vikings beating the Houston Texans 34-7. This was an absolute beat down from start to finish. Jay Jettas has another very good game. Thank you for my fantasy league, even though I lost.
Same.
But
I also did lose.
he went nuts in this game. Aaron Jones had a very good game as well. The defense was absolutely lights out. They forced an interception off of CJ Stroud, which is very rare, as we saw last year. The
I think he
longest.
forced 2. I think he had 2 picks.
Yeah, I believe he had 2 at the end of this one, but I don't count the other one because it was deflected. It's not really his fault, but like still. But
Still, I want to
either
push
way,
my
man,
Josh Allen narratives.
they played insanely well in this game, like on both sides of the ball. This was a complete team win. And if you didn't think the Vikings were legit to start the season, if you didn't think they were last week, you better know it now that they are a legit football team and they might potentially be in the running for a wild card this year. I think that it's very, very, very possible. And after a win like this, it's hard to see anyone disagree with that statement.
Yeah, I mean, they showed they're the number one example of why coaching matters. Why coaching is
Exactly.
so important. Because if you look at this team on paper, outside of Justin Jefferson and Christian Darrisaw, it's like where really is the talent? I mean, Aaron Jones,
Well, I mean, yeah,
Hawkinson's injured. I mean, but there
yeah,
wasn't just a lot of like top end talent. It's like the team just did not have a lot. But because they have Kevin O'Connell, who in my opinion is the 4th best head coach in the league, because I think Andy Reid, McVay, and Shanahan, I think, are like tier 1 on their own. Like that, I think that's the.
I think O'Connell's in the B tier.
Yeah, exactly. A tier is Reid, Shanahan, McVay. I think they're in their own tier by their own.
Campbell's
and I think
in B with O'Connell.
Yeah, and then I think B tier, you could probably, with the way McDermott's looked this year, could go with McDermott,
Harbaugh,
Campbell,
both
Harbaugh.
Harbaughs, probably.
Yeah, Kevin O'Connell. I just think Kevin O'Connell's the best of the bunch because offense, I think like his being able to work with quarterbacks. I think if you're a coach that can be like a quarterback whisperer or get the most out of quarterbacks, it just makes you an infinitely better coach because quarterback's the most important position on the field.
Exactly.
And that's what he's able to do with Sam Darnold. I mean, yeah, he has Justin Jefferson to throw to, but right now, no one else because Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson are injured. So it's literally just Justin Jefferson. And then they have like Jalen Naylor, who has looked good. But I mean, going into the year, Jalen Naylor being your second best target in the passing game and Sam Darnold being your starting quarterback, do you really expect your team to be that good? No, but Kevin O'Connell's worked wonders with that offense. That run game's looking really good. They have a good offensive line. Aaron Jones has looked very good. Hopefully he can stay healthy. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Brian Flores at this time next year will be the head coach of a football team. He is going to be getting another job this year without a doubt. I mean, what he's doing to this defense, he is right now the best coordinator in the league. Not offense
Yes.
and defense combined. He
Yes.
is the best
Agreed.
coordinator in the league. I think it's
Agreed.
him one, probably Ben Johnson two, and then after that you can kind of debate other guys. But I think those are the two clear best coordinators, and I think Flores is the clear number one right now. What he did last year with that defense, and then again this year, his blitz packages are just otherworldly. The way he's able to move things around pre-snap, or the way he's able to disguise things pre-snap and have people run into these spots, like it's a very complex defense. So you have to be really smart. And what they did is they got a bunch of high IQ guys that know how to get to their spots. So they're able to disguise everything. And then he's able to turn these blitzes up. So now you have these blitzes. You have 5, 6 guys rushing after you, and the coverage is disguised. So you don't even know what you're looking at. So now the quarterback can't really. A lot of times you do motion, you do things to try and open it up so you can be like, okay, it's cover 2, it's cover 3, cover 1, whatever. The way he's able to disguise it, you have no idea. So you have to wait until the snap happens, and then there's pressure in your face right away because they're blitzing, and you just have no time to do anything. It's just incredible what he's done to that defense. And then for the Texans, I don't know what happened. They got purely outcoached. CJ Stroud had a bad game.
Honestly, that's 2 weeks in a row now. I don't think they played well against the Bears either.
And I mean, now you see they honestly, with how bad the Colts have looked the last 2 weeks, they didn't play that good against the Colts. They're kind of scaring me a little bit. They aren't looking as dominant they aren't looking as good as I thought they were. I mean, CJ Stroud, other than like a Vikings game, he had some good throws, but he didn't have he's been good, but not great. The receivers have been a little underwhelming. The O-line's been very underwhelming. Everyone thought it was going to be a good unit. The defense has been, I mean, they were good against the Bears, but that's because the Bears O-line sucks. But I mean, they allowed 27 to the Colts. They just allowed 34 to the Vikings. Like, this defense has looked pretty bad, which with being DeMeco Ryans, you'd expect it to be pretty good. Their pass rush has been good, and that's about it.
Yeah, they did have a very tough week. Hopefully for them, they can bounce back, obviously. Week number 4 is going to be against the Jaguars, who really need a win, but we'll see. We'll hear about them, I guess, later.
Week number 5, they're going to lose, though.
Yeah, they got Buffalo.
You can already write that as a scheduled loss. I'll write there.
Because you're going to be there?
Yes. I've never watched a road loss.
Oh.
I'm 4-0. 2 Dolphins games.
Every professional sports game I've been to in my life, my team that I was rooting for has won. And I am
okay. That's not true. That's not true for me because I've had season tickets for so long. It's kind of impossible. Unless we will go 8-0 at home every year, like that's just not really realistic. But I am 4-0 in road games, 4-0 in a death because I was at the DeMar game. So that game didn't really finish because DeMar died.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Anyway,
refunded.
Anyway, in other news, the Broncos upset the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week, 26-7. It was a great game from Bo Nix, and I'm not going to lie to you. In the middle of the week, I was thinking to myself that obviously I was never picking the Broncos, and I'm never going to say I was super close. No, I was never close on it. I thought that the Bucs were going to win convincingly, but that press conference after last week against Pittsburgh, where he said, "I dropped back and I threw the ball to the other team." And that's exactly how he ended the press conference. And I could see the discomfort on Bo Nix's face. He was very upset with himself and how the team was playing and performing. And I had a feeling that there could be a chance that this week would be the week where they got on track. But I was like, it's Tampa Bay. Can they do it? I don't think so. And they did it. And they did it in convincing fashion. A very good game from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just kidding. From the Broncos. And Denver wins this one by 19 points. What are your thoughts?
To me, this is the most surprising game of the week. I mean, I don't know if I already told you, but this was my lock of the week, which I said on the pod. But I also picked the Bucs as my winner in 3 Survivor leagues, 2 for money and 1 for extra credit. So I'm out of all of them now. Thank you, Tampa. I didn't think there was a shot that Tampa was going to lose this game after coming off that big win against Detroit.
On my lock of the week,
and I'm 1-2. And then Denver, I just thought was just so god awful. I'm like, there's no way they're going to win a game or at least win a game against a good team like this. But they proved me wrong. Bo Nix played pretty decent. I mean, he wasn't like spectacular or anything, but he did enough. And then this Denver defense really stepped up. I mean, Riley Moss had a really good game. Pat Surtain's a stud as normal. They couldn't they really kind of stuffed the run, and they made Baker kind of have to drop back and pass it. And he is not one of those quarterbacks. He is a run play action quarterback. And
exactly. He's almost like a better Derek Carr.
Yes. Yeah, I
Like,
agree. I
literally.
agree. A much better Derek Carr. He's like a kind of like a Jared Goff. He's a more mobile Jared Goff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah, when it comes down to it, if the run game can't go and you can't hit those play action, I don't really trust him to just sit back and shotgun and just dot up a team. And that's what they had to do because they couldn't really run the ball against Denver at all. And it didn't really work out for them. Baker had a bad game and the Bucks really choked this one away. I mean, losing by 19 to my opinion, a bottom 3 to 5 team in the league is not a very good sign, especially
Especially
a Lions team
especially after
like you
last
did the
week.
week before. Yeah, exactly. You went into Detroit, and then I'm
And
pretty sure they were at home. The Bucks were at home, right?
no, I don't. Oh wait, no, they were, I think,
Exactly.
against
So
the
you go into
Lions.
Detroit and win, and then you lose to the Broncos at home. Just pathetic
Yeah,
performance out of you,
the
Tampa.
Lions were at
Pathetic.
home.
No, I knew the
Yeah,
Lions were at home. I'm talking about the Bucks. Were they at home against the Broncos?
no, the Lions. Oh, the Bucks were at home this week. Yeah, at
Yes.
home to get embarrassed like that is very
Yeah.
upsetting for them. But moving on to the next game, one of the closer games. I was so close with my score prediction. I picked 20-17, and it was 21-16 in favor of Indianapolis. So Anthony Richardson and the Colts pull out a very good win in this one. I wouldn't even say very good. This is ugly. This was the ugliest game of the week, in my opinion. There was just nothing to look forward to. It seemed like you could bet almost every drive is going to end in a turnover. For some reason, it was just one of those games. It was there was no other like ending. It was either a touchdown or a turnover on every drive. I remember watching the one drive, and then Richardson gets down to the goal line and throws the pick there. Very tough game all the way around for both teams. Obviously, the Bears drop another one, a game that they probably they had in the bag at first, and just kind of faded out at the end. Colts win this one. Alex, your thoughts?
Yeah, Anthony Richardson has very much disappointed me these last 2 weeks. I mean, he makes these crazy throws, but I knew he was going to struggle and be
He's
inconsistent with his.
2019 Allen.
Yeah, I knew he was going to struggle and be inconsistent with like these short to intermediate passes, but to miss by like this much, it is very alarming because he wasn't even missing this bad last year, like as a rookie. I don't know. Maybe it's the shoulder injury. Maybe it's just like the year off. Like he needs another year to rehab. Maybe it's kind of like an ACL thing. And then, or maybe his shoulders just shot for good and he's never going to be accurate. I don't really know, but he has just looked very, very like, I mean, both interceptions was open guys. There was the wide open guy on the drag, and then he overthrew him like it was a pick. And then in the end zone, the guy, all he had to do was lob it over the defenders, and all he did was lob it right to a defender. It was just one of the worst throws I've ever seen. And then, but the Colts O-line had looked really good. They got the run game going. Jonathan Taylor finally had his first big game of the year. And then the defense kind of stepped up. They were able to shut down the Bears rushing attack.
That rookie had 2 interceptions.
Who?
For the Colts.
And then Laitu Latu had a big sack, they had a couple of nice stops. He had a really good game. He was my defensive rookie of the year pick, and he sure showed it in this game why I picked him. This Colts defense looked much better. Granted, the Bears offensive line and their run game sucks because their line is probably the worst in the league, and DeAndre Swift might be the worst starting running back in the league.
Jalen Jones is so god
awful.
He's number 40, and he had 2 interceptions on Caleb Williams in this one.
Oh, nice. And then Caleb Williams, other than the 2 really bad interceptions, honestly played a pretty good game. He still isn't looking great, but he has looked better every single game.
This was the best game he's played in my
for sure. Exactly. But the issue is they had him throwing it 51 times. You should not have a quarterback, especially a rookie quarterback, throwing the ball 51 times. And the issue was they couldn't get the run game going against the worst rush defense in the league going into this week with the Colts. Their rush defense
they
got awful. And then
Stewart.
Exactly. It just shows how bad the Bears offensive line and how bad DeAndre Swift really is. Like, I understand the Bears just gave Swift the 3x24, but they should really, really seriously bench him or only bring him out for third downs because he should not get another.
If they were going to get running back 3 for 24, Pollard got the same from the Titans. That would have been such a better fit. Considering you could pass heavy team anyway.
Yeah, you could make the argument that DeAndre Swift is like just behind a battle line. He's still averaging 1.8 yards per carry. And then Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert are averaging like 3.8, 4 yards per carry. Like his vision is just awful. It's like he's running blind out there. I don't really know.
You know who DeAndre Swift has played for in his career? The Philadelphia Eagles, the Detroit Lions, and Georgia.
Exactly. Some
Like,
amazing
dude,
offensive lines. Like, so
like
he's never
amazing.
so
Like
like
he's
his bad
obviously
vision
gonna be
issues
asked.
kind of got like masked because he was in those great situations, and now he's in a bad situation, and it shows. Like Rashawn Johnson is a much better running back. Khalil Herbert's a much better
See,
running
this
back
is
when
how
he's
you gauge
behind
running
the
backs.
same offensive
And
line.
this
He's
is why
having
running
much
backs
higher
don't
yards
get
per
paid.
carry.
This is
Yeah,
why running
exactly.
backs aren't getting paid, is because the running back position's devalued, because if you have a good O-line, you can make it work with literally anyone at running back.
Yep.
And that's the thing, is DeAndre Swift is proving that point, because the good running backs, the difference between the good and the bad running backs is a Saquon Barkley. Because Barkley was behind one of the worst offensive lines in New York and was still putting up 1,400 yards a season when healthy. DeAndre Swift did it with the Eagles and the Lions. Wow,
And he
amazing.
didn't even put up those many yards.
Yeah, no, especially with Detroit, he was very bad. And the thing is it's just absolutely laughable to me, because how do you make a case to sign him to that much money? And that was the worst move for the Bears this offseason, in my opinion, was the signing of DeAndre Swift, especially when you're going out and trying to get a running back before you even fix the offensive line. That's just asking for problems. And that's exactly what it is with a quarterback situation. And it's why I said that New England shouldn't have took a quarterback this year, is because if you would have waited a year, hear me out. If they would have waited a year or two and just picked a guy like Joe Alt, they could have gotten an Arch Manning or something a couple years down the line once they had some receivers, an offensive line in front of them to help him, things of that nature. And the only reason I agree with them drafting a quarterback is because they ended up signing Jacoby Brissett to take his place anyway. And that was the only thing that made up for it in that situation for me.
Yeah,
But
I completely disagree, because especially like if you're the Patriots, you just brought in a new era with a new coach, so you get them the new rookie quarterback to bring with. And also, when you're scouting, you're not just scouting this draft class; you're also scouting the following draft class. Then okay, do I want to take a guy now or later? They probably knew this quarterback class is not looking as good. They have a top 3 pick. Let's go get our guy Drake May, who's a much better prospect. He'd easily be QB1 in this upcoming class. Like he's a much now in this upcoming class, it's much better for other positions. So they can probably, if they have a top 3 pick, trade out and get really good
yes,
value for
exactly.
someone
But
who's
the thing
chasing a
is,
quarterback, because now they have their franchise guy sitting there. So I completely agree with the way the Patriots went. I think it was smart for them to draft May and then build.
well, I'm not
that.
saying this year they would have went and got a quarterback. They could have went and got a quarterback 2 years down the line. So when Arch Manning's available,
No
because
team is that.
if you wait,
Arch Manning actually probably won't go to the next year. He already said he wants to stay in college for 4 years.
oh well, still,
Yeah, so he won't be till 2027. But I mean, you have to look at it like this: what owner is that patient? What owner is going to
right.
sit through 2 years of being god awful just to wait for a hypothetical quarterback? They're going to go and
Right.
get a guy that they want now and then try and build around it.
No, that's completely fair. But yeah, to kind of get back on the topic here, the Colts did very much so have a bad game in this one, shitty game, whatever. But they ended up getting the job done. And that's all that matters in the NFL. An ugly win is still a win at the end of the day. So good for them. Another AFC South versus NFC North showdown, the Titans and the Packers this week. I picked the Titans to win because Jordan Love was not playing. I did think Malik Willis would keep it close, but they proved me wrong and absolutely blew the Titans out of the water, winning 30-14. I wish the Titans would have kicked the field goal on that last drive just to make it 17 for the memes, but either way, they lose this one 30-14 again. Another tough loss for the Tennessee Titans to start their season against the backup quarterback, and it's not any backup quarterback. This is the quarterback you guys drafted and traded literally a few weeks ago, and he just kicked your ass in a football game. And it's your fault. It's Willis Levis's fault. And I've seen so many memes of them just saying Willis instead of Will for his first name. And in the crowd, there was a bunch of people holding up signs. But funny game. Titans get destroyed. What are your thoughts on this one?
So you know how I said that Kevin O'Connell is the 4th best coach in the league? Matt
Third.
LaFleur is the 5th best coach in the league.
Oh, fifth.
I mean, yeah,
I mean, we got 4th versus 5th next week. Then I think that's the game of the week.
It could be. I think the game of the week's the Sunday night game. I think the game of the week's the Sunday night game.
True.
But anyways, Matt LaFleur, what he has done without Jordan Love these last 2 weeks to get that run game going, he's been an absolute guru. Because I mean, Josh Jacobs had a bad game this week running the ball, but then they got Emmanuel Wilson and Malik Willis going on the ground. I mean, they've turned Malik Willis into a I can't think of
Serviceable
the word.
quarterback.
A serviceable system QB, like a game manager, which no one expected. They expected Malik Willis to be like this gunslinger, and he really hasn't. He's done what's asked of him.
Week 1, when they lost to the Eagles, and it was known that the MCL sprain happened, me and my buddy looked at the schedule and we were like, "That's a loss. That's a loss. That's a loss." And we're like, "Maybe."
Yeah,
they
I really thought the Packers were screwed.
And I was like,
this coaching
wow.
job by Matt LaFleur to win these 2 games with Malik Willis of all people.
I don't
is
even think it's
extremely
all on
impressive.
LaFleur, though. You got to give credit to that defense, man. They have stepped up since this injury.
I was about to say that the defense has played a lot better. I mean, Gio Alexander, he is one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Xavier McKinney is showing why he was paid all that money. He's been absolutely insane. And that front seven's been getting a lot of pressure these last 2 weeks. They struggled week 1 against the Philly O-line, but these last 2 weeks, they've been generating a lot more pressure. I mean, Rashawn Gary is a beast. Preston Smith's a beast. And, I mean, yeah, they got the players out there. They changed their defensive coaching over the offseason. A lot of Packers fans had hoped that would change it. And it looks so far like it has really changed some things up there.
Yeah, they had a very good game in this one. Absolutely blew them out of the water. And another team that had a backup quarterback playing was Skylar Thompson. You saw his cheeks out in this game. 20.
I thought that was fake at first.
I did too. 24-3, the Seahawks obliterate the Dolphins. I labeled this game as a trap game because I do think Skylar Thompson's halfway decent, but he was not showing that in this game, and then he ends up getting injured. Tim Boyle trots out there, and I instantly felt bad that I had to watch the rest of this game on Red Zone. Very tough game for the Dolphins, and I'm not going to lie to you. I think my boldest prediction of this entire season so far is that I have the Seahawks going 6-11. And my buddy asked me on our podcast we did yesterday, another podcast I do not sponsor, but please watch that one as well. I do think that the Seahawks have half the wins they're going to have all season right now because they have played 3 of the worst teams in the league. The Dolphins do not have a quarterback anymore. They are definitely one of the worst teams in the league now. The Broncos in week 1 with a rookie quarterback who hadn't even gotten anything going just yet and still might not. I mean, they played a team that just wasn't ready for him last week in Tampa Bay. And then in week 2, the middle game, he played the New England Patriots, who we all know aren't going to be good this season anyway. So you played 3 of the worst teams in the league. Yes, you're 3-0. Congratulations. But now you got to play the Lions. If you can prove me wrong and beat the Lions, I will change everything I've said about them. 9-8, 10-7, something around that game. It's all going to be centered around this week on Monday night because I have to see them beat a team that can actually go out there and win. And if you can go out there and beat a team like Detroit in Detroit while they're like hyped up about the new uniforms, the new helmets, all that stuff, then I will take it back. But for this game alone and the rest of the season so far, it's been really fluky. And you almost lost to the Patriots. The Broncos kept it close despite not having any offense. And the Dolphins in this game were still hanging in there until he was injured. It wasn't that far out of reach. The defense just kind of kept them in this game for most of the game. But the Dolphins just couldn't get anything going on offense. Achane was getting stuffed when he did get the ball. And one thing about Mike McDaniel, I understand, but like you want to be a pass-heavy team, that's something you want to get Hill and Waddle involved. You have to run the ball more when you don't have a quarterback like Tua. You can't have Skylar Thompson throwing the ball as many times as he was at the start. You had to kind of run this ball and keep this in your court, and you just didn't do that. That's bad coaching on his part. But give me the Seahawks in one of the worst games of the week, I guess. But Seahawks dominate. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I just want to quickly just touch upon 2 things that you said that I kind of disagree with. You said that you think Skylar Thompson is halfway decent. That is hilarious. It might be one of the funniest things I've ever seen because he is one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever watched. He is god-awfully complete and utter dog shit. Look at his numbers. He is in Miami, one of the best systems you can be in as a quarterback, and he has put up god-awful ugly numbers. He is god-awful.
That system is kind of crazy to say, considering that offensive line had him like he was on the ground within 3 seconds.
I'm not even talking about this week. I'm talking about any time he's had to start to his replacement. Like 2 years ago, you saw that offense was one of the best in the league with Tua. What? That was not because of Skylar Thompson. That was because the Bills were awful because one of their players just died and they had to go through so much turmoil that offseason. Josh Allen getting injured, or Dawson Knox's brother dying, the snowstorms, one of their friends dying on the field. There was so much turmoil in Buffalo that year that really anything that came from that season, I kind of hold with a grain of salt. That was just an awful game by the Bills. Nothing to do with Skylar Thompson. Every other game Skylar Thompson's played, look at his career numbers. All of them with Miami that year after Tua went down, they were a top 5 offense in the league. When Skylar Thompson was in there, they were a bottom 5 to 10 offense in the league. He is just awful. He has Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill to throw to. Devon Achane is a running back. And Mike McDaniel calling plays, and they put up 3 points. I understand that O-line is bad, but he is just an awful quarterback. Skylar Thompson sucks. He is a bad quarterback. He sucks. I don't care.
No, I'm not saying he's good. I'm just saying he's not
half
bad
decent. Half decent is being way too nice. That's just, I think you're kidding yourself by saying he's halfway decent. He is not a top 50. He's a below average backup. He was not a top 50 quarterback in this league easily. No. I don't even think I'd want him as a backup. I think he's maybe a third string practice squad guy. That's how little I think of Skylar Thompson. And then also the one thing I just want to say about, I also had the Seahawks going 6-11, but I also had them losing to the Dolphins before the season started because I thought Tua was healthy. So now I'll move it to 7-10, maybe even 8-9, but I could still, still not that high in the Seahawks because they've played close games with bad teams. And then, about the game, Geno Smith played really bad. The Seahawks defense played really good. And then I already ran on the rant about how Skylar Thompson sucks. I guess I don't really have too much left to say.
Yeah, I do think the Seahawks probably end up with 8 wins, maybe 9, unfortunately, because of the fact that they're playing the Rams eventually, soon, I believe, on their schedule. And the Rams are so beat up. It very much so could be a win for them in that essence as well. And then they probably get 1 against the Cardinals. I would assume they split that season series. So that's probably 7 or 8 wins.
But the way the Niners are playing, they could win one of those too.
Yeah, you never know. But we're going to move into our next game, a team I thought that was going to improve to 3-0. The battle of 2-0 teams this week, Chargers, Steelers. This one, I was so close to hitting the nail on the head. It was 17-10 as my score prediction, although it was in the Chargers' favor. This one was 20-10 in favor of Pittsburgh. What can I say about the Chargers in this game, man? I don't think they had a bad game, but they had everyone get injured in this one. Joey Bosa, Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt, Justin Herbert. This was just absolutely terrible to watch. Everybody go down. Joey Bosa comes out for the second half in just street clothes, just wearing a hoodie and chilling. He had no way of getting back on the field. This is just, it's a tough stretch. And when you're going up against a team like Pittsburgh, whose defensive line is unforgiving and relentless like that, you can't lose your 2 best offensive linemen in one game and expect to recover and play well. And your quarterback goes down too. I understand he came back in and played, but obviously wasn't at 100% anymore. And when you have all that thing, all those things coming into effect, honestly, 20-10 is not as bad as it seemed. It's not as bad as it could have been. And I mean, Pittsburgh's 3-0 now. So they've beaten the Broncos, who, I mean, you already know my thoughts on Denver. I don't think they're all that great. And then the week 1 heroes are always the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look at a few years ago, they beat Buffalo in week 1. But they're always good in week 1, except for last season. They're actually they've won 4 of their last 5 week 1 regular season games since the year 2020 now, I guess it would be 2019. So the only one that they lost was last year to the Niners. But either way, I don't know if the Steelers are legit or not. It's hard to gauge, but they do get the win in this one. A beat-up Chargers team heading into Kansas City next week. Well, they're technically at home, but playing Kansas City next week. So congratulations, Mahomes. You're about to be 4-0. But, of course, you play the Chargers when they're unhealthy. But anyway, Steelers win this one.
Yeah. So my thoughts were basically, as you said, the Chargers just got injured. I still think the Chargers are a better team. I think if the Chargers stayed healthy, they pull that game out. But I mean, losing your best defender and your 3 most important offensive players, and one of them being your quarterback. And then, he tried to come back out, and then he had to go back out again. And then Taylor Heineke came in, and Taylor Heineke's like a decent backup, but he's one of those decent backups where if you have good weapons around him, can play well. The Chargers don't really have great weapons. It's kind of just They're
I wouldn't
relying
even
on a
say
run.
just that though. He's also in a new scheme that he doesn't know all that well,
Yeah, he
and
just got traded a couple
like
weeks
he
ago.
just got traded a few weeks ago, so he doesn't really know the scheme that well. So I don't even blame this loss on like
Yeah, no,
Heineke
I
just
don't blame it
not
on Heineke at
having
all.
anything,
I'm just saying like he's not one of those guys that when
No,
you
I get it though.
where
I
you
get
don't
that.
have a lot of good weapons and stuff can really like have a good game. And this is more of just like a it's the offense is competent because of Herbert's ability to make these receivers look better and because of the run game. But then you lose the 2 linemen and then so you don't have a run game, especially against Pittsburgh. And then you bring in Heineke when there's not much to throw to. I mean, Quentin Johnson has looked much better. Lad McConkey's looked decent, but I mean, they're meh right now. It's still a pretty bad receiving core against a really good Pittsburgh defense. There's not really much you can expect out of Heineke to be able to really do there. And I think that's really what happened. I'm still not that high in Pittsburgh. I think it's more so just that the Chargers got injured with everyone important and the Steelers stayed healthy. I mean, think
Yeah,
about it. What if the Steelers lost TJ Watt, Justin Fields, and their best offensive lineman? I don't know who that is. And
like
then maybe
Fontana, they
like,
kind of did.
and then they lose Fields, Fatano, TJ Watt, and George Pickens.
Yeah,
How do
right.
you expect the Steelers to be able to do? Not
Yeah,
shit.
right. Yeah, exactly. It was a tough game for the Chargers. I think they'll bounce back eventually. Obviously, probably not next week, but they will bounce back eventually. They'll be just fine under Jim Harbaugh. So I like how they've built that team already. They've looked a lot better compared to last year. And if they had Jim Harbaugh last year, they definitely make the playoffs, in my opinion. But either way, I think that it was a tough game for the Chargers, especially with all the injuries to overcome. But we're going to move on to the upset of the week in most people's opinions. The Red Rifle starts at quarterback for the Carolina Panthers and wins them a game 36-22. And I don't care that the score is 14 points. This game was not as close as the score indicates. And it was in Las Vegas. The Raiders got absolutely butt effed in the ass in this one because they played terrible. This was one of the worst games I've ever seen Gardner Minshew play. Honestly, after what I saw in this game, I wouldn't be surprised if they trot out O'Connell next week.
They already said they're not.
It's still, man, like one or two more bad games from Minshew and it's over. I do think the Raiders have at least low playoff aspirations. I think they could be in the 7 to 10 range for this season. I'd say 9, not 10, but still. They're in that range where they one or two games they can't afford to drop. And this was one of them. And they dropped it 36-22. What are your thoughts on Andy Dalton being the first quarterback in the league this season to throw over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in a single game?
I mean, yeah, Andy Dalton looked really good. He is one of those quarterbacks that can come in and have a couple really good games. He's the definition of a
Look
very
at
good
last year
backup.
when he played for the Panthers.
Exactly. I mean, it also showed that Bryce Young is just god awful. And the issue with Bryce Young is he's not athletic enough to make up for his small stature. I mean, think about it.
He has to jump when he throws.
Exactly. Kyler is really small, but Kyler is able to move out of the pocket, scramble, and throw on the run, throw outside of the pocket, make plays outside of the pocket. So, yeah, he struggles throwing in pocket a little bit over the middle, but because he can get out, he can make plays that makes up for it. Bryce Young can't do that. He's just not athletic enough to be able to get out, and then he has to jump to be able to throw the ball. He's small. Like, there's not really, and then he hasn't been accurate at all because his footwork's bad because he can barely throw over his offensive lineman. Like, so he can't hit a receiver, and it's been really tough for him. And then everyone was like, "Oh, it's Carolina. They've just been ruining him. Oh, it's Carolina." Then Andy Dalton comes in and does that to a respectable Raiders defense. Clearly, it shows that Bryce Young
Especially
is the
against a
problem.
questionable offensive line, too. Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby were non-factors.
Exactly. I mean, this team just looks so much better. I mean, Dave Canales really showed out with his play calling to be able to, and then Deontay Johnson, Adam
He did what
Thielen,
he
they
did
even
with
got
Geno
Xavier
Smith.
like got involved. They were doing. Andy Dalton was just not missing. I mean, I don't expect this to continue out of him. I expect him to have some real stinker games. That's why he is again a backup. He's old, not really in his prime, but he can still have some pretty good games left in the tank. I mean, I think he
He
can.
has the
I
chance to
think
do
he can
something
be like
fun.
a below average starter for the Panthers for the rest of the year, which is better than the worst starter in the league. So it's an upgrade. I mean, I think they could probably win a couple more games now. I said they were going to go 0-17, but I think as long as Andy Dalton starts, they're more of like a 4-13, 5-12 level team, in my opinion, where they're going to be able to have a couple upsets. They're going to be able to keep a couple of games close. So unless Andy Dalton gets injured, I expect this team to be a lot more competitive going forward.
Yeah, and he has the chance to do the funniest thing ever by beating the Cincinnati Bengals this week, which would be hilarious, especially since that would make the Bengals 0-4.
As long as
And
Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow have big games,
the
I don't care if the
craziest
Bengals go 0-17.
the craziest stat I saw this week is if, and this is a decently big if the Falcons were to beat the Saints this week, and then the Bucks beat the Eagles, and the Eagles beat the Bucks, and the Panthers were to beat the Bengals, the Panthers would be number one in the NFC South after this week.
That's
So
hilarious.
that would be funny to see, obviously. But the
I don't
Falcons
expect
would
that to
have to
happen, but
right. The Falcons would have to beat the Saints because
I
the
expect
Saints have the
that. I
tiebreaker.
expect the other two things to happen. I just don't expect the Bengals to drop to the Panthers, even though they did just to the Commanders. But either way,
Yeah, so everybody would be confused by that because they'd all be 2-2 at the end of the week. But the Buccaneers would be last because they haven't played anyone in the division yet, so they don't have the tiebreaker. And then the Falcons have a tiebreaker over the Saints, so the Falcons would be 2, Saints would be 3, and then the Panthers losing to the Saints wouldn't matter because the Saints are below the Falcons, and then they'd be number 1 because they have the best in-conference record. Like they're all
I thought it
tied.
would go by division record, and the Falcons would have the best division record of 1-0.
No, because wait, I don't think I think it goes by conference first.
Oh, I thought for like division, it went by division record, and then if it was like a conference seeding, it goes by conference. But I thought for division seeding, it
No,
went by division.
I'm not too sure. We can figure it out later. But either way, they'd still be second or like right there. They'd all
Yeah,
be tied, which is just funny. But
they'd be tied for first, which is funny enough.
yeah, exactly. So they could potentially make some noise. Who knows? Either way, they'd probably make a little bit more noise in their crowd. But Niners Rams is next on the slate. 49ers had this one in the bag and blew it in the fourth quarter. What else is new in the Shanahan 28-3? We've seen it in the past. This is another one of those games where they had it for probably 50 minutes of this game and then just blew it with the last 6-7 minutes of this one. Rams come back, get a much-needed win on their schedule. The 49ers are now 1-2 to start the year. The Rams get a big win they really had to have after starting the season the way they have, being 0-2. They really needed this one. They get the win, and the 49ers, who knows what's going to happen with them, but this is a tough one. Alex, what are your thoughts?
So the Rams are the better coach and the better QB. I think McVay's I think it goes Andy Reid, McVay, then Shanahan.
This is one of those games where I pick the Niners because they have they always own the Rams for some reason. They just own the Rams.
For some reason, I just had in my mind that like it was the other way around. So I wanted to
maybe it is now because
I just thought McVay's a better coach than Shanahan. I think early on in their career, I think Shanahan, but I think lately over the last like 2 to 3 years, I think McVay's
early on in their career.
Now that McVay actually has a quarterback, I think he's more so kind of owned Shanahan over these last few years with Stafford. Right. I mean, and Stafford just continues to show his brilliance. I mean, he's throwing to Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, Tyler Johnson, Colby Parkinson, Jordan Whittington, and is still putting up good numbers. Like these are a bunch of no-name nobodies, basically. A bunch of wide receiver 3, 4s, and 5s filling out his team because he's without Cooper Kupp and Puka, and he's still putting up good numbers. Kyron Williams is a beast.
That receiver depth is it's starting to show through the cracks of like how.
I just think it's more. I don't think it's more so the depth. I think it's more so Stafford making them look better than they are. But maybe.
No,
maybe
I'm saying it's like No, I'm saying like it's starting to show that they're not that great.
Yeah, outside of
Kupp, not good. Yeah, exactly.
But Stafford is just so good that
it's almost like the Dolphins from last year when they had Waddle and Hill, but after that, no one.
Exactly. Like I completely agree. I just think that once they can get healthy, if the Rams can at least stay afloat, maybe by the time like week 8 comes around, if they're like 2-4 or like 2-5, 3-4 in that range, and then everyone's healthy, I could see them definitely go on a run to make the playoffs. I just think they need to at least stay afloat for these next couple weeks for Kupp, for Puka, for some of these O-linemen to get healthy. And then I think I'm really excited for what I'm going to see out of them. Because this defense, I mean, last week it was pretty bad, but week 1 and week 3, they have looked pretty decent. I mean, for considering they don't really have much talent, they've kind of done enough to keep their team in the game to allow Stafford and McVay to cook.
Yeah, you're right. I think this was one of those games where like I kind of felt like the 49ers were going to give it up at the end. I kind of feel like that was just the energy this game gave off, was like that comeback was going to happen. A very tough ending for the 49ers. Maybe they'll be able to bounce back. Who really knows? But next game we have on the slate is the Lions Cardinals. A lot of people had this one being a higher scoring game. I listened to the voices in my head for the first time in a long time because I've seen a therapist for it. But I, I listened to my voices in my head and said that this one was not going to be as high scoring as people thought, and it was 20-13. My score prediction. The only one I correctly got of the entire season so far. I predicted the score 20-13. I think the Lions did a very good job. It's unfortunate to kind of see this kind of a game, though, from them. They didn't do that great on offense. Again, another tough week for them. But the Cardinals, yeah, exactly. Yawn, man. The Cardinals offense did nothing in this game to really wow me, especially after McBride got hurt, which that was a really scary play to watch because, like, you heard that hit. Like, it felt like my TV was on 100 volume when I heard that hit, but it was not. And it was a very tough one to see for him. They're going to have a tough game again this week trying to stop the Commanders, who are on a bit of a streak. But the Lions win this one by 7 points. I wouldn't say this is a convincing game, but it seemed pretty convincing for most of it. What are your thoughts?
So the Lions kind of like flipped the team from last year. Last year it was enough out of their defense to match up for a super high scoring offense. And now it's enough out of their offense to match up for a really good defense because their defense has looked, I mean, they've allowed 20, 20, 16 to the Rams, a healthy Rams team for the most part. I mean, Puka kind of got injured. Puka got injured the game, but either way, mostly healthy Rams team, a Bucks team, and then a Cardinals team. All offenses have looked pretty good. And then against the Lions, they haven't really looked all that great. Like the Lions defense doesn't look like shutdown, but it looks like a top 10 unit right now. And so if they can get this offense figured out, I mean, the run game looks good, but Goff just hasn't looked that great so far this year. I think they're kind of missing a big body guy out wide, but I also think just Goff hasn't been all that anything so far. I mean, I think that's Goff's issue is he has a couple of good years behind a really good run game and a really good offensive line with his play action. And then film starts to come out and kind of stop him. And then it happens to be right after he always gets paid, and then he gets paid, and then he has some bad years, and then everyone's like, oh yeah, he sucks. And then it's like, oh, actually he might be good. Then he gets paid, and then it's always sucks. And then it's like, that's why when he signed that extension, I'm like, this is just an awful extension. He's not that level of guy.
See,
And
that's
he's kind
the
of
thing,
showing it so far this year. I mean, the Lions are 2-1.
the
They've been a
diva
good
coming
team,
out of the league right now. That's what I've been saying for a while now. It's just like the divas out of the league, where it's like, oh, yeah, they're not as good to us, but to themselves, they're obviously going to believe in themselves more. Like, oh, I'm better than Burrow. Oh, I'm better than Herbert or Hurts or these other guys that got paid. And that's exactly the situation they got screwed in, because it's like, well, I mean, we got to pay him what he wants because he fits our scheme. He's a perfect quarterback for our system. And so they pay him the money, and now he's just playing like complete trash again. And it's tough to see that, but at the same time, I believe in this Lions team. I'm expecting some big things against the Seahawks. I wouldn't say from him, but I would say from the team in general. I expect them to have a good game. So we'll see how it goes. We're into the final 4 games now. We're going to go with the Ravens-Cowboys first. Ravens, this one hurt my soul because Derrick Henry got 33 points in fantasy and literally ruined my week. Lamar had a good game for me too, but the Ravens finally get on the win column, and it's something they desperately needed to do. They almost choked for a second consecutive week. This was just a very bad game at the end for Baltimore, but they had it in the beginning. They were starting to look like Baltimore from last year. In the beginning of this game, near the end, they kind of choked, but 28-25, they come away with their first win. CeeDee Lamb was non-existent in this game. What are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is that the Cowboys' rush defense is still god awful. Who would have known that if you have a really bad run defense and then you do absolutely nothing to fix it, your run defense stays really bad? Like,
yeah,
that's so shocking to me. I mean, apparently
like
that's what the Cowboys
quarterback for like 30 years.
Yeah, the Cowboys apparently thought that if you have a really bad rush defense and then you do nothing to fix that rush defense, that it'll just all of a sudden magically get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I forgot. Who did they draft in the first round this last year? Why am I blanking on their first
Mozzie's,
round pick?
I know Tyler Guyton, offensive
Oh yeah, they
lineman.
drafted an offensive lineman. Their
If you're
their
saying
big issue,
last year they drafted Mozzie Smith,
Nazi Smith, and he's been awful. But their big issue was their run defense and their D line, and then they don't go and bolster it up, and they go
yeah,
and
it's
draft an
being
offensive
held together
lineman.
by the power of friendship at this point.
It's being and no, the power of friendship is quite strong. It's being held together by nothing. It's being held together
Yeah.
by glue sticks. I don't know. By
those cheap dollar ones.
exactly. It's being held together by glue, like those wooden sticks you get to make arts and crafts a kid. Those are a
Ooh.
bunch of them glued together. That's what it's getting held by right now. So
Yeah,
anytime
literally.
anyone hits it, they just break because anytime they get hit, they just break. I
Yeah.
mean, that's really what it is. And then the Ravens found a way to almost choke this game. They are just Lamar is kind of a choke artist. I mean, look at the playoffs. Look at what happens when he has a lead. He kind of chokes a little bit. He almost choked this
What do you
game
mean?
away.
He never has to lead in the
He did
playoffs.
get the clutch. He did get the clutch first down to put it away. But I mean, they were up 28-3, and then next thing you know, you look and it's 28-25. It's like, wow, what are the Ravens doing? It's what happens when you get a really good offense like Dallas. You keep giving them chances because the offense couldn't fully put that game away for them.
That onside kick too, man. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a weird game in this one. I feel like the Ravens. Well, there was really no danger of them losing this one in my mind until right at the end, and still though, like you have to win in more convincing fashion than that once you start up by so many. Because I'm telling you, if you do that against a team like Buffalo, against a team like Kansas City, you're not going to win those games because they're going to come back and they're going to win. They have two of the best quarterbacks in the game, probably
The two best quarterbacks in the
the
league.
two best,
Yeah,
yeah.
the top two.
And that's the problem is you got the two best quarterbacks in the league. Like you're playing in the same conference as them. I understand this is only week 3, but you have to get this together because if you would have lost this game and then you got Buffalo next week, that you could be looking at an 0-4 start right there if you're Baltimore because this is a very tough start to the season. I get that, but man, you got to win that game against Las Vegas. You have to. I understand the loss to the Chiefs and it was this close. But I don't even know if they get the 2-point conversion in that situation. Still, it's just a tough situation for the Ravens right now. We'll see how they can fix it. But moving into our Sunday night football game, the Chiefs and the Falcons. Chiefs getting bailed out by a Kyle Pitts pass. I'm sorry, that was pass interference. I get it. I'm a Bills fan. That was pass interference. You called the penalty on the Bengals last week for getting there a little too early. And he was there like 2 seconds in. From 2 seconds in onward, he was there. He was in the play. He was he was just hitting him. And he never turned his head around, never did anything like that to kind of make a play on the ball. Just completely took Kyle Pitts out of the play. And it cost him this game. Another thing that cost him was a terrible coaching decision not to quarterback sneak it on the 4th and 1, 4th and inches, whatever they had. Very boneheaded move by Morris, in my opinion, as well. And if they would have just took the field goal at first, they could have took the field goal again there. And then you're talking about potentially a different result with how good that Falcons defense was playing in this one. Simmons got another pick on Mahomes, which he's still number 1 in the entire land on Mahomes interceptions. Obviously, he played for Denver, though, so you can't say too much. But still, good game from the Falcons. They showed a lot. Kirk Cousins didn't look as bad on primetime as people expected him to play. This one was really close right to the end. It came down literally to a couple different plays, like maybe 2 or 3. But the Chiefs inevitably win 22-17. So what are your thoughts, Alex?
So I actually my thoughts coming out of this game is the Falcons look bad. I'm higher on the Falcons now than I am after last week because they played the Kirk Cousins played a tougher defense and really came from either a missed PI call from another touchdown that could have put them up or just a not dumb decision by Zach Robinson to call a halfback toss on 4th and 1. I mean, I see that's why I'm not going to say the PI is the reason why they lost the game because they had another drive and then they decided to call halfback toss and 4th and 1 where you can either go QB sneak, but probably not because of Kirk Cousins' age, or you can give it off to Bijan Robinson on halfback dive, who is one of the best running backs in the league. His contact balance is insane. How many times do you see Bijan get tackled on this first hit? Like almost never. His ability to bounce by and at least get usually a yard or two on every single carry. like I understand not just a basic dive. Maybe you try and disguise it, you set something up. Maybe you have a pulling guard. You have a little something so or maybe even like a inside zone or a power, but a toss play with the Chiefs having Leo Chanel and Nick Bolton, two of the best run defending athletic linebackers in the league, and you call a toss play?
Yeah, exactly.
It does not make any sense at all why you would do that. And then on 3rd and 1 to run it with Tyler Algier instead of Bijan, that doesn't make any sense either. Just some boneheaded play calling by the Falcons at the end of this game that really cost him the game. Yes, obviously that was clearly pass interference that he missed, but that's not the reason why they lost. It is extremely frustrating.
The way I see it is the same way as the Bengals thing with the Bengals and the Chiefs AFC Championship game that the Bengals won, the one in overtime. Because the week before we lost in overtime to the Chiefs, and we were complaining about that. But the way I see it is you had that chance on defense to stop them. I understand the coin flip it does make it hard, but at the same time, you had that chance to stop them. And that's what the Bengals said. And then they went out in that overtime and got that interception to get them the win. And that's exactly the way I feel is they got one more chance. Yes, you lost the coin flip, so you didn't get the ball first, but you had that chance on defense to stop them. And that was how this game felt right there. You had another chance to redeem them. I understand the refs make some bad calls sometimes, but at the same time, it's not the only reason you lose. Like, there's other reasons you lose football games. Like, you had 10 to 12 drives in a football game, and you're telling me you're going to blame it all on that one drive you didn't score? Come on, man. I'm sorry, and I understand it's against the Chiefs, and I'm a diehard Bills fan, so believe me, I know some stupid shit happens in favor of the Chiefs, but at the same time, you have to win the game in a better situation than that. But moving on to my favorite game of the week, the Bills-Jags 47-10 rout. Josh Allen, 3 games into the season, has yet to throw an interception. His NFL record, if you will, most games without an interception in Josh Allen's career for one season is 3. That is the most. And Allen has already hit 3 games. If he doesn't throw an interception against the Ravens on Sunday night this weekend, then Josh Allen will officially break his own record of that and have his 4th game of the season without an interception. So Josh Allen and the Bills went to work early and often in this game. Cook, Kincaid, Shakir, Coleman, Ray Davis, all scoring in this game. Absolutely amazing game for the Buffalo Bills. They do everything right, and they get the W. What are your thoughts on this game? Obviously, very good things.
So the first thing I want to say is that I think the Bills are currently the best team in the league, but I still think that I still have the Chiefs as my Super Bowl favorite because I'm not betting against Mahomes in the playoffs until he loses. I mean,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But at this current moment, if they played right now, I think the Bills would win. They look better in all phases of the game. The offense looks basically unstoppable right now. I mean, it's the everyone eats method. I've been screaming for that for years. Like, we don't need to give one guy a bunch of targets because teams are going to build their defense to that. Instead, who do you going to put double coverage on? You're going to put on Kincaid? Okay, Shakir and Coleman are going to eat. You're going to put on Coleman? Okay, Shakir and Kincaid are going to eat. You're going to put it on Shakir? Okay, like there's just you put too much attention to one guy, it just opens it up for everyone else. So then you have to give them all equal attention, and someone's going to get open. There's someone because we're so deep. Like Mac Hollins, MVS, Shakir, Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Kincaid,
we're so
James
deep.
Cook, Ray Davis, Dawson Knox. All of these guys can make plays with the ball in their hand, like all of them. It's not like last year it was basically James Cook, Kincaid, Gabe Davis, Diggs. Shakir, and Diggs, and that was really about it. There was like double the amount of guys this year that can make plays.
And you also got to account for Gabe Davis falling off a cliff almost every week, and then
exactly,
Diggs
and being injured at the end of last year. Exactly, like the end of last year, there was. Really, Kincaid, Cook, and Shakir were like the only guys we could look forward to. Now we have so many different guys, and then this offensive line took another step. Last year, it was like a top 10-ish unit, like maybe top like 15. the 8 to 12 range, in my opinion. Yeah, I would say it's like the 8 or 9 to 12 range, right in there, borderline top 10. And then we lose Mitch Morse, and people are like, oh, what's going to happen to the offensive line with McGovern moving and David Edwards? Like, people are worried, and it's like, well, right now, through 3 games, we probably have the second or third best offensive line right now behind the Lions, and the
Has
Eagles.
Allen even
Spencer
been
Brown,
sacked this year?
what? Twice. One of
Twice.
them was that strip sack to start the year. That was not the
Oh,
Lions'
on the
fault at
first
all.
drive.
Yeah, that was Allen's fault completely. He just, I don't know what was going on. He just kind of had a blank right there. So that one, that's not even
That's
the
his
offensive
only
line's fault.
turnover of the season.
Exactly. That was just kind of I don't know, a goof, whatever.
That's an Allen play.
Yeah. Spencer Brown has yet to even allow a pressure. He's the only offensive lineman in the league hasn't even allowed a pressure in 3 games, not a single pressure. He's the first offensive lineman to not allow a pressure in a game that he had 35 plus pass blocking reps. Like, he has been absolutely dominant. Deion Dawkins has been dominant. O'Cyrus Torrence has really cleaned it up after week 1 that he looked pretty rough. McGovern and David Edwards, were people were worried about, they've been really good. This O-line unit has just been absolutely insane. And then our depth has been pretty decent. I mean, you saw our backup O-line was in the fourth quarter, and we were still able to run the ball decently enough. We were able to go on a small touchdown drive where we ran it every play. Like, our O-line is just looking really, really good. And then the defensive side of the ball, I mean, you can't say enough good things about what Babbage and McDermott have done to that defensive side of the ball. We're without our best defender, we're without our second best defender, and we're without another starter in Terrell Bernard. And our defense has allowed 33 points in 3 games against a good Falcons, against a good Arizona offense, the Miami offense that for 3 quarters had to us, so a very good Miami offense, and then a Jags offense, right, hasn't looked great this year, but they do have Trevor Lawrence and some weapons. They do have the potential to be a very good passing offense, a very good offense. They haven't so far this year, but there's a lot of talent in those 3 teams, and we've shut them all down. I mean, I guess the first half against the Cardinals, but then the second half we locked in, and we've been able to defend the run a lot better.
Exactly. I saw something about that, actually. Since the second half of that Cardinals game, we have given up 23 points in the last 10 quarters, which is literally 2.3 points a quarter.
And one of those touchdowns was the kickoff return. We've really allowed our defense has allowed, in our last 10 quarters, has allowed 16 points, 1 touchdown and 3 field goals. That's actually insane. Oh wait, no, did Miami score 10 points?
Yes.
Oh yeah. I thought they scored 3. No, 23 is right. 23 is right. I'm wrong. Yep, 23 is right.
23, not 30.
Yeah, I was thinking Miami only scored 3 points. That's my they have a touchdown. Yep, that's But
still,
anyways,
23 points.
Christian Benford playing like a first-team All-Pro. Rasul Douglas playing like a good corner. The safety duo of Rapp and Hamlin, extremely surprising. Would have never expected that out of them. They've been very good. They haven't made any mistakes, and they've made some big plays. They've done their job, which is all we were asking for out of the safeties. We didn't need All-Pro, Pro Bowl level guys. We just needed people who could do their job because we had other guys to rely on. And then Balin Spector and Dorian Williams, Dorian Williams gotten better every single game. Against the Cardinals, he was awful. Against Miami, he was better. And then this week, he was PFF's top-rated linebacker. He was all over the field. I think he's now starting to see the field a lot better as he's getting this more experience, and he's using that athleticism. Still not great in pass coverage, but in the run game, he was just flying around. And it's great to see that. Balin Spector's look pretty good. And then on the D-line, Von Miller's had a resurgence. This is his best season since like 2019. He has like a pressure rate of over 20% right now. The last last year was like 7. The 2 years prior was 15%. So 36-year-old or 35-year-old Von Miller coming off the torn ACL is the best version of Von Miller the Bills have had. Like, he has been insane. Greg Rousseau has taken a step. Epinesa has looked decent. Eddie and Daquan have done enough. Casey Tuhill, who I was hating on the Cardinals game, has looked a lot better. Javon Solomon came in with a stud. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Based off of a strip sack by Javon Solomon, Tuhill had a sack himself. Like, Von's had a sack in every game. Like, the entire defense has really rallied together, and our run defense, which is usually the weakness of our team because we play so much nickel Tampa 2, has been very, very surprising. Yes, we're going to allow a couple of big games here or there, but the way our defense is set up, we're kind of built to live with that. You can have a 20-yard rush. You can go down the field. You can have a 10-play, 80-yard drive. We're going to stop you, and you're going to end up kicking a field goal, and then our offense is going to go right down, score a touchdown to put pressure on you. Now you're going to force stuff, and we capitalize. That's basically what it's built like.
That's how it is,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Usually our first drive on defense, we're not that good. They usually go down and they get some yards. But the thing is, actually the last 2 games it's been better, but usually we allow some We usually allow in the
Yeah,
first
we play
quarter
a
a
team
really
like
good
Kansas
drive.
City. Expect that. Expect them to
Yeah,
drive down and get a
the
touchdown
thing
in the
is,
first half.
when our offense is on the field, we're going to go down and we're going to score points. We're going to get at least a field goal, probably a touchdown. And now we're putting the pressure on you. You have to keep scoring. Then you're going to force something and make a mistake, and then we capitalize, and then our offense keeps scoring, and it just puts the game away. And that's what it has been. I mean, you can make an argument if we're going all based off like all coaching staff, like head coach, coordinators, everything. The Bills probably coaching staff is top 5 in the league right now. I'd still put, just because of how good McVay, Shanahan, Reed are, I'd still put those to the top 3. I'd probably put the Vikings number 4 because McConnell and Brian Flores. I'd probably put the Bills 5 because now I don't think McDermott's the 5th best head coach. I think Joe Brady's a top 5 offensive coordinator, and you can make an argument that Bobby Babich is a top 5 defensive coordinator. There's a real shot we lose both of them this offseason to head coaching jobs or better opportunities, like higher paying jobs. Like a Babich could pull like an Eric Bieniemy, where he goes and becomes the offensive coordinator somewhere else. Clint Kubiak just did that. So they're not under the, oh, you just have a defensive-minded head coach or offensive-minded head coach in their situations that's really controlling it for you, where they want to be like, no, I can do this on my own. So there's a real opportunity that we lose both of them this offseason, which is kind of scary because they're so good. But that's also like the fact that that's even a thought is because of how good they've been, and it's awesome to see that. I'm so excited for this team this year. I think this season is really different because this is the first time we've been 3-0 since 2020. And that year, we made it to the AFC Championship game where we didn't have nearly as good coaching. We had a young, immature Josh Allen. And honestly, our defense was pretty bad. That was not that good that year. And we didn't have nearly as much talent on the defensive side of the ball. And we still made it to the AFC Championship game.
Right. Yeah. Buffalo did have a very good week. Obviously, it's still early in the season. We saw it last year against the Commanders and then the Raiders as well in the 2 and 3 weeks 2 and 3, and even week 4 against Miami. So hopefully, it's a lot like the Miami game this Sunday night. That'd be awesome. But anyway, we're going to hop into our final game of Week 3's NFL schedule, and this one might have been one of the wonkier ones as well. Commanders beating the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are now 0-3. With the return of T. Higgins, expected the offense was going to be very, very good, and they were 33 points. And if you would have told me that they would have scored 33 points in this game and lost, I would have laughed in your face. But here we are. It's the world we're living in. The Jaden Daniels-led Commanders went off. Jaden Daniels, and I know I've hated on him so many times this season already, and I didn't like him in the offseason. And I've compared him to RG3. A lot of times, this is an RG3 performance for me because in his rookie season, RG3 looked very, very good. And so does Jaden Daniels. 21 of 23, 254, and 2 touchdowns through the air. He had the rushing touchdown. He had like 40, 50 yards, something like that on the ground. Not that bad of a performance for that either. Very, very good game from Jaden Daniels. He got the job done, and the Commanders really went to work in this one. They got everything right, basically. You did everything you had to do on the offensive side of the ball. On defensive side, you got to clean that up, but that's besides the point. Jaden Daniels gets him a very big win in this one, and now Cincinnati, panic button right there. You got to hit it now. You're 0-3. I understand you started the season off against the Chiefs, and that's understandable. The Chiefs game should be the only loss you have right now. You lost to the Commanders and the Patriots, and the Patriots didn't even play Drake May. You lost to Jacoby Brissett in 2024. That is embarrassing. That is very embarrassing in my opinion. I think that this team is very bad, but I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on this one.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Daniels so far has proved me wrong through these first 3 games. He has looked a lot better than I expected. Now, the issues that I thought were going to hamper him, his ability to play under pressure, still hasn't been that good. It was against the Bengals, but the first 2 weeks he really did struggle under pressure, and I expect there to be still a lot of growing pains there. I understand I like the RG3 comparison. I still like the Justin Fields comparison. They're going to have some really big games. I think the bigger story is this Bengals defense is really, really bad. I mean, they allowed 16 points and they allowed the Ramondre Stevenson to run all over them. That's not a very good sign. And then you allowed the Chiefs had a pretty good game against Mahomes had some bad interceptions, but they still scored like 26 points. And the Bengals always play really well against the Chiefs. Their defense usually plays really well, and to still allow 26 points. and then against the Commanders to just not force a single punt or turnover against a rookie quarterback with all right weapons, like just an awful performance. Now Joe Burrow and that passing attack with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins looked really good. Joe Burrow looked back in form. He looked like people, including myself, think he's a top 3 to 5 quarterback in this league. He played extremely well in this game. I expect big things coming out of him for the rest of the year, but if this defense can't turn it around, it's going to be a rough season for Cincinnati. They could be looking at a 7-10, 8-9 record with how tough their schedule is, with how tough that division is. So
Yeah,
I'm not fully hitting the panic button. I'm not fully hitting the panic button yet, but I'm definitely very worried if I'm a Bengals fan.
Yeah,
and if I'm a Commanders fan, I'm quite happy with what I've seen so far.
Oh yeah, but with that kind of a game, man, it's just you're playing two of the easier teams on your schedule in the entire season. Early in the year, the Patriots and the Commanders, and you lose to both. You lose to both of them. That's tough to have, especially in a season where you're going to have to play a lot of good teams. You still have to play the Ravens twice and the Steelers twice, and the Browns always give you hell too because they're a division rival. It's going to be tough for the Bengals pardon to kind of bounce back from this very slow start. But we're going to kick it to some college football really fast. We're going to rapid fire some scores. You're going to kind of let me know your thoughts on it at the end here. But USC, Michigan, this one was a good game. Very low scoring for most of it. The fourth quarter really heated up. A game winner for the Michigan kicker, 27-24. They get the job done there at home. Big win for them. Not at home. I think this was in USC.
No, it was at home.
It was at home.
If it was at USC, it would have been a night game. This was a day game.
Yeah, probably. You're right. Then we have Utah versus Oklahoma State. This one really wasn't close for much of this one. Cam Rising didn't play, but didn't matter. Utah had a very good game plan. They were up big in the later stages of the fourth quarter before Bowman decided to get his head out of his ass and start playing football again. And they still ended up losing this one 22-19, but they made it respectable at the end. Tennessee, Oklahoma kind of went as I expected it to. Was never really close, didn't really have a game. Arnold was benched in this one. Very tough start to the season, I would say, for the Oklahoma offense. They kind of got to get things going a little bit more, especially in the later half when they start to play the big teams like Tennessee, for example, losing 25-15 in this one in the reunion game for Tennessee's head coach. Kansas State gets blown out by BYU 38-9. That was kind of shocking, especially since Kansas State came into this game ranked inside the top 15, but I guess not anymore because they got absolutely shit on. Then you got LSU and UCLA. This one was close for a little bit, closer than LSU fans probably want. They don't look that great this year, but they do get the win 34-17, doubling up the score by the end of things. And lastly, Nebraska, Illinois, which is the game of the week out of these games, aside from maybe USC, Michigan, which was very close as well. But Illinois getting the win there against Dylan Raiola, as Nebraska falls 31-24 in overtime. Alex, what are your thoughts on these ones?
So we'll go with Illinois, Nebraska first. Same old Nebraska. They just seem to choke it away at the end. The amount of one-score losses they've had over the last couple of years is kind of hilarious. They do look better than any years past, but I mean, they do have their Big Ten schedule coming up. If they can't seem to put together win close games, it's going to be
at least they don't have Frost anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be rough road ahead if they can't seem to get that under control. We'll go USC, Michigan next. I think the difference is USC is just not ready for Big Ten football yet. Michigan punched him in the mouth. I mean, Alex Orji had 32 yards passing, and Michigan scored 27 points and won this game. They just ran the ball, and it just and played good defense. And it didn't. I mean, Miller Moss had a good game, like 270 and 3 touchdowns, but Michigan was able to just run it down their throats with Donovan Edwards and Brian. I think it's like I forgot his name. Like I can't actually. Don't even let me. I'm not sure. Do you know the Michigan running back name by chance? Not Donovan Edwards. It was the other guy who had a really, really nice game. He had like a 50-yard run on the final drive to kind of set up Michigan to be able to score that game-winning touchdown.
Crap, I don't know his name. It's Brian.
Kalen Mullings. I don't know why I was thinking Brian, but he had he had like a 50-yard run that really set up that touchdown drive for Michigan to be able to take the lead there. Kansas State, what happened? You got shit on by a bunch of Mormons. That's pretty pathetic. Oklahoma State, my Heisman pick, same with yours, has been looking pretty bad so far this year. I was right by saying I think a running back's going to win it. I was just wrong with the running back. I thought Ollie Gordon was going to have an insane year, and I just expected Oklahoma State to be better. So like he was going to get the recognition, but right now it's Austin Gentry's award to lose. I mean, he's been 9 touchdowns in 3 games, is otherworldly. Averaging 10.5 yards a carry is something straight out of a video game.
Oh yeah.
And then what was the last? Oh, LSU, UCLA. I mean, UCLA sucks. LSU didn't look great. One thing I do want to say, I want to give a quick shout out to UB football. They beat their first ranked team since 2008, beating Northern Illinois at home in overtime. Congratulations to you guys. You guys are 3-1 with your only loss being to Mizzou. So you can't really get too upset at that.
They hung in there.
They have an easy game against UConn coming up. Hopefully they can win that. And they got a real shot at the MAC. It's probably between them. And I think it's Toledo has been really good this year. So I think those two teams, that you could see one of those maybe sneaking into getting ranked. Hopefully it's UB. It's always pretty cool to see when UB's good at football. Maybe we can even get lucky and we can get College Game Day to come, because they do occasionally show up to MAC games. UB has actually one of them one time. It was Northern Illinois against UB back when Northern Illinois was really good with Paxton Lynch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe it was I think it was with Central Michigan. Where Corey Davis went to college. The coach is now the coach at Minnesota. Like the ride the boat saying came from. I think it was
Davis.
Yeah, I think it was Central Michigan back when they were like really good out of the MAC. UB played them the one time, and the game was on because Corey Davis was a top 5 pick.
He went to
Western Michigan. It was Western Michigan, yes. So in the MAC. UB played them and they were like undefeated, and it was a College Game Day. I remember watching that, and yeah, UB got like destroyed. But I would love to see a College Game Day come to Buffalo. I'm calling off work immediately, and I'm getting there at 6 a.m. and not remembering the kickoff.
Right. Yeah, I feel you. I think that was fun as well for UB to finally win a ranked game, and of course, I told you that Northern Illinois was not as good as you were saying they were.
No, I didn't think they were that good. I'm just saying they deserve their flowers by being an undefeated team that beat a ranked team like Notre Dame. Just because it's early in the year, it's just to give a small school like that its flowers. Did I think they were a top 25 school in the country? No. I just thought they deserved to get their flowers for upsetting Notre Dame like that. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted to see, really.
Right. Fair enough. And the last thing we're going to talk about in today's game podcast, I guess, sorry.
Today's episode.
Yeah, today's episode. So is the Buffalo Sabres season preview. Last season, the Sabres finished 39-37 and 6, 84 points, which was good enough for 6th in our division. Right there in the thick of things for the playoff race at the end of the year, just couldn't sneak in. Final spot ends up going to Washington, but Buffalo did have a solid solid season last year. Obviously, this year there's a lot of different guys and a lot of new pieces, a lot of moving parts. Lindy Ruff, who's a very competent head coach, he's going to be the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres for the 24-25 season. Of course, the moves for Ryan McLeod in the Savoy trade, and as well as a couple other moves like the signing of Nico Kubel, and a couple other moves as well, like the Jason Zucker signing. So what are your thoughts?
Trade.
The Beck Malestein. I think that he probably plays AHL and comes in for come in as like a scratched guy. Like he's going to start the season scratched most likely. Unfortunately, I do think that's like how it's going to play out because we have such a deep team, especially if Coolidge makes the team. So it's going to be very hard to fit him somewhere, especially if it's like the 4th line. Sure, go for it, but I mean, you're paying Greenway $3 million a season. You don't want to scratch Greenway on a consistent basis in that regard. But we'll see how that goes. What are your thoughts for the Buffalo Sabres season? What do you think happens? Do we finally break the curse of our playoff drought?
I think we do. I think we sneak in as the 7 or 8 seed and I end up with 94 points is my prediction. I really expect this team to take a big jump. Maybe that's just me being a hopeful, biased Sabres fan. As you can see, Sabres fan right there. I got the Ryan Miller fat head in the background. But I do really expect this team to get a lot better. I mean, what were the big issues last year? bottom six was awful. The power play and the coaching was awful. And our top six couldn't stay healthy. We spent a ton of resources on our bottom six. We traded away one of our best prospects for a bottom sixer, a third liner. We traded away a second round pick that we got by trading back in the draft for a bottom sixer. We signed someone for $5 million to be a bottom sixer, where Kevin Adams was really, really invested on making sure this bottom six was not nearly as awful as it was last year. And it looks actually really, really good. I mean, if Kulich makes a team, a third line of Kulich, McLeod, and Zucker, that's a pretty competent, pretty good third line, unlike years past where our third line is pretty bad. And then our fourth line just being a bunch of old wash players with Gergensen and
Okposo.
Okposo and a bunch of Gergensen was all right or good on defense, but his offense was so bad it didn't matter. Like a bunch of players like that. Yeah, now we have a bunch of speedy defenders like Sam Lafferty, physical guys, Andre Kubel, Malenstein, Greenway, Krebs. We have a bunch of more like speedster guys who are physical, better defenders, and honestly, probably more skilled offensively than the guys we had playing on our third and fourth line last year, other than maybe Casey Middlestat before we traded him. But anyways, and then our top six, I think, is better because Tuck's healthy, or not. Well, yeah, Tuck is healthy, but I meant to say Thompson is healthy, and Peterka up on that first line. I think he's really going to cook. I mean, look at that first line the last 2 months of the year when Peterka got moved up. You had Peterka, you had Thompson, you had Tuck, and they were averaging. That line was averaging at least a goal or two a game. I mean, Peterka had a good year; he was cooking. Tage Thompson was looking like his 2022 self when he finally got fully healthy with that line. He was looking really, really good. So I'm excited to see what that and Tuck was looking. He's kind of almost like the point guard of that line, getting all the assists, and I really liked that a lot. That first line, and then the second line, I expect Cousins to have a bounce back year. I think hopefully Quinn should stay healthy. He had the Achilles injury, then he got healthy, looked really good, then got injured again. Very unfortunate to see. So I really like him being fully healthy now. I think him, Cousins, and I think Benson
if he
takes
stays that way again.
Yeah, I mean, Benson, had 30, 35 points as an 18-year-old that wasn't even expected to make the roster and just played so well. Like he was playing on their third line with not great talent around him. I mean, kind of a wash Skinner or Middlestat at first, but then Middlestat was traded, and then it was kind of like Krebs put in there. Now he has Quinn and Cousins to play next to, assuming he gets that second line, which they've been playing him there a lot. So I expect him. They've been mostly putting Zucker on the third line. And then they've been putting Kulich on the second line, but I think that's more so just to get him the experience. I think Benson probably gets that if Kulich makes the team or not, either way.
Then you got Kulich, Zucker, and McLeod on that.
McLeod, I think that's a very, very respectable third line. I mean, Zucker or McLeod, they could all. I mean, Kulich is probably the worst one of those three, but Kulich could be a sneaky guy that gets 15 to.
Kulich is a pure goal scorer guy. He's not going to be the one that flashes you with the assists or makes the
same thing with Zucker. I mean, Zucker and Kulich could be a sneaky duo that combines for 35-ish goals.
And then McLeod knows how to dish the puck to players like
he's one of the fastest players in the league with great defense. Zucker's a decent defender. So, I mean, you're going to get decent defense, but you're also going to get some goal scoring out of your third line, which we've been missing for so long. And then defensively, I mean, you have Dahlin. I expect Power kind of had a little bit of a sophomore slump. He had his on nights. He had his off nights. And then Byram showed a lot of flashes while in the Sabres, but I think it was more so just awful coaching. And then I expect Ryan Johnson to be a little bit better. Samuelson being back. I think this decor will be better. I don't expect them to take a big step, but I think it'll be better than it was last year. And I expect their goalies to be even better. I mean, you have UPL taking another step. Even Devin Levi, who I absolutely love, I'm high on. I really think it's going to be like unless they put Levi in AHL and they have Reimer, who's at least a decent backup, I think it's going to be like a 55 to like 25-ish split, something in that range, where UPL is definitely the starter, but Levi is a very competent backup where we're not going to overuse UPL. So where he gets tired like he did kind of at last year, the last like 2 weeks, he kind of was like, he kind of got tired out those last few weeks because we were using him so much. So it wasn't really to blame for him not playing as well. It's more so he was starting every night because if we had Eric Comrie and not, it was a guaranteed loss.
And then maybe like 6 or 7 for Reimer. I think Reimer gets in there just so like we don't have to play them so often. Like if it's a game against a team that's a bottom feeder, you could play Reimer. Like if we're going up against maybe Chicago, I don't really know. I mean, you could say like a team like that.
I could see that. And then another big thing that I wanted to get into real quick is the coaching. I mean, Lindy Ruff is probably a huge upgrade over Don Granato. Not even so much X's and O's. I don't think Ruff's
It's
a
just
great
the
X's and O's
discipline.
guys. I think it's the discipline. I mean, you saw on that first practice, guys were on their hands and knees. They were having players doing push-ups for not getting out of the box fast enough, like things like that. Lindy is riding them. He is hard on them. He's this old head guy. Yeah, he's not really an X's and O's guys, but that's why they brought up the AHL coach. What's his name? I can't remember. What's the AHL coach?
I have no idea. I don't know.
No, the guy we brought up. He was the AHL coach last year.
He's the assistant coach. Is it Ellis?
Seth Appert. He was the AHL coach last year. Had really good results with the Amherst. They were a continuous playoff team, usually going at least second, third round. I mean, they had good talent, but he was a very good coach.
We almost made it to the finals a couple years.
Exactly. You have Appert. It was 2 years ago. Yeah. You have Appert, who is the X's and O's guys, to go perfectly with Ruff, who's going to be that hard-nosed, tough guy that's going to really – because, I mean, you saw last year Middlestat when he said he went to Colorado is like these are the hardest practices of his life. It's because he was under Don Granato's pussy-ass practices. That's really what it was. They were just so weak. And now the players just weren't really tough, weren't physical, kind of were getting gassed in the third period. That's not going to happen under Ruff. And then another quick thing I want to touch on is the power play. They finally got, I think it was Matty Smith or he had a really basic name, but Matt Ellis. Yes, Matty Ellis. He was the power play guy last year, and he was absolutely god awful with the power play. All it was just pass it around, and then hopefully Thompson gets open for a one-timer. Hopefully he makes it. That's basically all the power play was. It was just keep passing around the blue line, and hopefully the defender leaves Tage Thompson open for a one-timer. Yeah, because defenders are going to leave Tage Thompson open for a one-timer on a power play. Yeah, because that's going to work a lot. It worked 1 year, and because defense
that was the year he broke out, so no one thought he was like
exactly. That. And then defense adjusted, and then last year
that's like Curry in his first year. They'd leave him open because they didn't know Curry was going to be the best 3-point shooter of all time.
Yeah. Exactly. And then they saw, so they adjusted, and he was never really open, and he wasn't really healthy. Now you see, I understand it's preseason, but in these couple of preseason games, you saw a lot of, I think it was the one goal we had against Pittsburgh.
Yes.
It was a tip-in because we had three guys standing there around the net, and that's exactly what we should be doing. Getting movement around the net, make the goalie's job harder. That's what the job, you have to make the goalie have to work. You move things around. The guy shooting it from the blue line, honestly, probably shouldn't be the guy who's scoring. You got to get guys who can play the net, get sticks up, and get deflections, and make it where the goalie has no real shot of being able to stop it because they can't see the puck. That's how a successful power play works. And then obviously occasionally doing this will leave Thompson open for the one-timer. And if Thompson has a one-timer open, there's a good chance he's going to hit it if he's healthy because that is his bread and butter. So one, it'll open up what we're good at on the power play, and two, it just makes our power play so much better. So I'm really, really excited for what I'm going to see out of the Sabres team this year. Hopefully they don't disappoint me like last year when I said the same thing.
Yeah, I do think Buffalo will do very good as well. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. It's a very competitive Eastern Conference once again this season. So look for it to be a very, very good season. Thank you guys so much for watching another episode of the Sports Lab podcast. I'm Thomas Bailey, Alex Miley, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much, and we'll see you